Hi, everyone. It's Terry Wildemann with Intuitive Leadership. And today we are delivering a wonderful little training. It's not a big training, it's a compact training on how to build rapport and awaken possibilities when you are at home. Many of us are used to communicating with our folks face to face, but this new transition has taken us to new horizons, new places that we're still learning how to navigate, and our communication skills may be a little bit rusty. So today we're going to work on that. We're going to share with you a free profile to help you be more comfortable in communicating from home with your colleagues and with your family. Today's guest is Carol Mettebrink from TTI Success Insights. And this is a product that I've been using myself since 1994, actually earlier than that, 1992. I got certified in this product in 1994 and have been using it in all of my communications trainings since then, and it's just absolutely brilliant. So today, Carol and I are going to be playing with this new profile to help you be the best that you can be. So Carol, would you please introduce yourself to the Intuitive Leadership audience?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about the opportunity to introduce one of the newest products in our product line from TTI Success Insights. When the COVID-19 hit, we realized that everybody working from home, that was going to be an entirely different experience and really difficult for some people. So we wanted to be able to offer a tool that would help people transition from the office environment into their home environment and starting to work either via phone or video calls. And so we came up with a brand new product based on the DISC theory for people to understand how to connect with the people through the screen or through the phone line, so to speak, so we could really assist in people continuing to be successful from their office to their homes and really the distractions that people have right now. So better understanding yourself, having that stronger self-awareness will actually allow people to be far more successful in the remote environment.
And one of the fun things about this program is that, Carol, you and I are going to be comparing our profiles.
Yes.
We are exact opposites, folks. We really are. Not only in the way we look, she's blonde with the black shirt. I happen to have the dark hair with the white shirt. Today we were cracking up when we came on board for the program. And, you know, we are really opposites, but there are things that are bringing us together that help with the way that we communicate. So let's go on with the show and let's just start. I'm going to add this to the screen here. So Carol, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Terry. So what we said, we're setting the table, so to speak, here. Many of us are working from our kitchen tables. It's the new norm. We've all transitioned from that office, that busy, having people buzzing around us, to working from home. And some of us, such as myself, I don't have a lot of people around me. I live with 2 cats. But many of you now are working with the distractions of your spouse working from home, of your kids being from home, all these demands around you. And so what we wanted to do, as I said earlier, is based on this DISC profile, understanding your behavioral style and how you communicate, how you show up on a day-to-day basis, but from a different lens, looking at it from being remote. So we came up with this fantastic tool, and believe it or not, it's free. So you could actually go in, and Terry's going to explain that at the end of the show, of how to go in and take this online assessment to understand what your working from home behavioral style is. Some of the things that you will find in this great report is that it's going to identify what your behavioral style and tendencies are. It's going to make you more aware of what your strengths are and where some of your weaknesses are and how to manage to those so that, again, you can be as successful as possible in this new norm of working from home. And then it's going to give you some tips of how to stay self-course corrected. Since we don't have a lot of people around us, sometimes we are not paying attention to actually how we are projecting ourselves. We don't have that other person telling us, kind of tone it down, or you're going too fast. So these are going to be really great tips to keep you mindful of how you're showing up in these conversations remotely. It's so key to be timely and keep your priorities managed. And this report will give you some tips in regards to that.
Mhm.
It'll also enhance your daily activities and really improve your communication effectiveness when you're working with people, either personally or professionally. So we want you to stay connected with your coworkers, with your family members, and with your neighbors with as much ease and fluidity as possible.
Right, right, right. Now, one thing I want to mention though, can you go back to the slide before
Absolutely.
that? One of the things that I want to make very clear is this is a behavioral report.
Mhm.
It is not a personality report,
Correct.
which is different. So can you speak to that, please, Carol?
Absolutely. Our personalities are a makeup of many different things. When we talk about behavioral style, this is basically based on a science of Marston. He came up with this four-quadrant theory that what we see on the surface is how we act. And so what this report is doing is it's really identifying what quadrant do you fall into. So what are we most apt to see on the outside when we're communicating with someone? And so we're going to see similarities, and we're going to see where sometimes we're polar opposites, as Terry said. She and I are. But then how do you manage to make that connection really effective and conflict free? So the personality is a bigger blend of things that are actually um, influencing what you see and who you talk to. But if you think about behavioral styles, it's kind of people watching. And I love to do that because you can tell by how fast do they walk, how expressive are they, or what words do they use, or what's the tone of their voice. So all of these things play into what we quote as our behavioral style.
Yep. And you brought up Dr. Marston, and just a little bit of trivia with Dr. Marston. He's the creator of Wonder Woman.
Yes, he is.
And I wear my Wonder Woman bracelet every single day.
A woman of power, or superwoman.
So I just had to throw that in there because a lot of people don't know that about Dr. Marston.
Well, the other thing they may not know is he also created the lie detector test. So
That's right, he did. He created the lie detector test. I forgot about that.
yeah.
So there's a lot here that we need to unpack. So let's keep going here. And yes, you did show my profile.
I did. So let's talk a little bit about this because you weren't even aware that we had come up as far as TTI Success Insight. It's a new profile for the remote individuals. So talk about that a little bit.
Okay, well, we were talking about our different behavior styles, and I happened to just ask Carol, how do you see me? You've known me for years. How is it exactly that you see me? And she's like, Terry, you're always ahead of the curve. You're highly intuitive. You know, you've always done things differently. And that's what I love about you. I thought, oh, isn't that cool? And then she says, you know, you're just so pioneering. And I've never really been called pioneering before, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I had just finished doing my report right before she had said that. And I said, okay, let me hit the button. Here's my report. And we both just laughed ourselves silly because this is what came up.
Yes.
I am pioneering. And when you read what a pioneering person is, who a pioneering person is, they are pioneering communicators that are uninhibited. I don't sometimes uh, open-minded. I believe I am very independent. Indeed, I am unconventional. Of course, I'm unconventional and intuitive. The angels behind me will validate that.
Absolutely. I love it.
So yes, and I have been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old. So yes, I've always been a little bit on the fringe, so to speak. And when I owned my leadership center, when I closed it, I couldn't believe how many people came up to me and said, "Terry, you have always been ahead of your time."
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess it does fit.
So, and that's what I love about TTI Success Insights tools. They're very accurate.
Mm,
When people just take these assessments, they think, how in the world are they going to understand who I am based upon ranking for words that describe whether I'm most like or least like? And when they get the results, it's always priceless to see or
it
hear
is.
their expression, because it's that, oh my gosh, this is so me. How can
Right.
that be? So again, it was just priceless to see your reaction and mine when this popped up.
I wish we had been on camera when that happened because it really was quite the funny moment. Now, you had talked about how people respond when they get the reports.
Yes.
I actually had I didn't say that it was me. When I got my first report, which was, well, when did I say, 1992, I was reading this report and I had a piece of paper. I mean, I had a pencil and a highlighter, and I'm going through this thing going, oh, this is me. This is me. Yeah, this is me. That's not me. That's not me. No way. That's not me. And the things that I said that I highlighted that's not me. That's not me. That's not me were things I didn't like about myself.
Mhm.
And I just put it away. I go, "Ugh, this is a bunch of hooey."
Mhm.
So about 2 weeks later, I had just put the girls to bed. My husband was on deployment, and I sat in the green, comfy chair in the corner of my den. And I said, all right, let me look at this thing. I was stunned in reading the profile and realized that everything that I said, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, I had done in the previous 2 weeks. And there was this aha moment where I just said to myself, I have got to get this under my belt. I want to learn all about this. I want to, I'm not going to say heal. That's not really, yeah, I guess maybe in some ways it is. Heal some of the things that were coming up because I realized that they were because of the way I was raised, environmental, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And those were things about myself I really didn't like. And to this day, all these years later, do I still have those fringes? Of course I do. We're human. But I've worked on them so much, and I frankly like who I've evolved into. But it's because of this profile. This profile led the way to my truly understanding who, how I was behaving, not who I am, but
Mhm.
how I was behaving at that time.
And Terry, you bring up a great point, because that's what these assessments are all about. It's really understanding who we are and how we're projecting ourselves. Our
Mhm.
lives are so busy, they get so many things going on. And we don't even stop to think, how am I engaging with this person across from me? How are they receiving what I'm saying? So these aha moments, these are really learning points for
Mhm.
you.
They are. They really, really are. So,
So
you know, I'm
let's
glad that I did it because I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
well, I had a great opportunity to speak with a coworker yesterday, and she is kind of that very strong influencing profile. So very verbal, very colorful, and she did the same thing, Terry. She read her report. And she understands those things about her. And when we got into this transition of moving away from her office where she could engage with people, 8 hours a day, which she absolutely loves, and that's what energizes her. And she realized when we made this transition to be working from home, she went, oh my gosh, how am I going to manage to this? This
Yeah.
is not going to be kindly to who I am.
Right.
And she took these tips within her report, and she told me yesterday she took those and she really implemented, she executed on them, she put them into her daily plan as a mindfulness task. And she
Mhm.
said, it's working for me. She said, I've really been able to adjust based upon these remote tips. So it's been
Right.
very helpful for her. What do
Cool.
you what do you see or think when you go through your remote tips on this page?
Well, I have a very strong advantage, and that is that I have been working from home for over, what, 10 years.
Yeah.
So many of the tips that are on here, I have already implemented through trial and error. And I think almost every single one I am already doing because I understood my behavior style. I work from home. Now, when I had my leadership center and I was involved with people face to face, I wasn't doing all of this, of course.
Mhm.
However, moving back here 10 years ago, because I had my leadership center from 2001 to 2009, and then I moved home to do it. I love each and every one of these because I had to teach myself how to work like this. Be prepared to back up your ideas with the new facts. That's something I've always needed to teach myself. Make sure about the facts. Now, I learned that when I was in law enforcement. I had to search for the facts. I had to be the detective. I call it being the detective, and know that the black and white facts are necessary, but also listening to the intuition is very important. So don't rely on intuition only. The facts can be as important as the intuition. However, when your intuition is screaming and those facts are in front of you, that's your intuition saying dig deeper, ask more questions, ask open-ended questions. So that's how you listen to your intuition when you're presented the facts and something isn't right. Something isn't right. So take more notes or document more thoroughly than you normally would. Number two there. Well, guess what I do? I record everything. I make a screen recording of everything because here's what I know. I'm audio as well as visual. If I'm writing things down, which I do, I do, depends on what it is, I'm losing what the speaker is saying and I'm going to catch every word. So when I create a recording of what is being said, then I can go back and I can listen to
Mhm.
what was said. And that helps me because I know as a trainer for myself, it really frustrates me when I'm in front of the classroom and I'm teaching and people come ask questions afterwards who missed what I was saying because they were writing.
Great.
That drives me ballistic.
They ask you a question and you're going, I said that
I just
earlier.
said that, right. Don't let your assumptions fill in the gaps. This is another thing that I learned when I was in law enforcement. Be very careful of your assumptions. We all know what the word assume means. Our assumptions can get us into trouble. And again, it's about asking open-ended questions and stepping out of judgment. That was one of the pieces, by the way, that really smacked me in the face when I read my report the first time,
Wow.
because at that time in 2004, there were certain things that were going on in my life that I realized I was judging a lot. I was assuming a lot of stuff, and it was getting me into trouble on various fronts. So that was a big one for me. Working virtually means less opportunities to clarify. I'm not sure I actually agree with that. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm just because I guess as a coach, I'm so trained to ask questions all the time that I'm always asking open-ended questions. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in person or whether I'm online. However, for somebody who's not used to doing that, yes, ask your open-ended question, get in the practice of doing that. Attempt to be more detail-oriented. Now, I drive my VAs crazy because I can sometimes be too over detailed. And we can talk about that later because I know there's some juicy stuff coming up where we can talk about that. And it can be difficult to persuade others when you're not in person. That's not my problem. I don't have a problem with that because I'm used to it. It's interesting. I've had people call who want to coach with me, and I say, "Well, I coach online." Well, I can only coach in person, and I say to them, "Trust me. Let's do one session online, and let's see how you feel afterwards."
Mhm.
And every single one has continued online, and that's with people who even live locally to me, because all the distractions are taken away.
Right.
What's the next one? Keep comments or ideas concise. Yes, sometimes I need to just chunk it down. Yes, I got that one. And then review your notes before the end of the meeting to make sure you have all the information you need. That is just a classic training. That is training yourself to do that. And yes, I had to learn to do that. So the tips are spot on. The tips are accurate. And listen, read your tips, take them to heart, and work with them because they are going to make a difference.
It will make a difference. And the thing that I noticed is that because you've worked from home for so many years, I
Mhm.
kept hearing you say, I've learned to do that. I've
Yes.
trained myself to do that.
Yes.
So think about somebody who hasn't had this vast experience or
Right.
years of working from home. How do you think this might impact them once they take this report and have these tips presented to them in this fashion?
Well, I think they're going to have the same aha moments that I had in 1994.
Yeah.
And, it was a shock. I'm not going to kid you. It was like, ooh, I really, wow. It was a real enlightenment for me. It truly was. It was true enlightenment. People ask for defining moments. That was one of them. And I've written about that moment, by the way, in 2 books. So
Wow.
that's how big that moment was for me. And it's on my blog posts. And, so yes, that was a real enlightenment for me.
Well, for you, you read it, you reread it, and then began to put scenarios together to see where that could be true. What I would say is some people may read their reports and say, no, 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 that's not me. What I would tell you, if in fact you take this report at the end of this segment, um, be open-minded,
Yes.
really be thoughtful, think through, but then take it. If you're still convinced this isn't you, this isn't how you show up, then take it to somebody who knows you, either
Yeah.
your spouse, your best friend, maybe a coworker, and have them read through your
Yeah.
report and to verify, yeah, that happened to me. I said, I'm not that way at all. And my best friend went, oh, yes, you are. Really? Because it had a negative connotation. I didn't like it. Just like Terry said, she didn't like some of the statements in
Yeah.
her report. But what it did was made me stop to think, wow, if I'm showing up that way, if that's how people perceive me, and it's having a negative impact on me because I don't like that, then you have this opportunity to
Mhm.
change, to really be
Yeah.
mindful, to stretch. We are
Absolutely.
all hardwired differently, but
Yeah.
now you have this great opportunity to say, who am I? Is it really getting me what I want personally and
Right.
professionally? And then if not, you can manage to it. You can adapt. So that's the great
Mhm.
thing. So these remote tips
Yeah.
are really fabulous. If in
And these remote tips, by the way, are specific to the pioneering behavior style. So I
very
just want to make that clear. It's specific to the pioneering behavior style. And one of the stories that there was a woman who is a hairdresser who had me do these reports for herself and one of her employees. And she didn't like what she read, and she kept saying that the report was not her. And I'm thinking, yeah, how about we unpack this thing and we debrief and talk about it. She refused,
really
absolutely refused because she didn't like what she read. And what I know is I read the report. It was her to a T. And she paid me a lot of money to have the reports done. And instead of allowing me to work with her and work with her employee, she
Mhm.
just went like this instead. So what changed? What changed? Think about that. What kind, did that do a disservice to her? Yes. Did it do a disservice to her employee? Yes. And that's why Carol and I are basically saying stay open minded. Take these things to other people, have other people read the reports and get back to you because we are not objective about ourselves. End of story. We are not objective about ourselves. And it's really important to get that.
You know, this is great because it ties right into an article I read just a couple days ago. Gallup poll went out and assessed individuals in the workforce and asked them, how self-aware do you think you are? And most people came back. As a matter of fact, 95% of those individuals came back and said, yeah, I'm self-aware. I know who I am. I know how I show up. Well, do you realize that when they took one of these assessments, only 10 to 15% actually were.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of having these assessments, is really pulling back the veil, getting honest with ourselves. How are we showing up? Is it having a positive impact and allowing me to leverage my strengths, to identify where I'm not weak, and then to be able to have that two-way street of communication? And that's what we want. It's become more challenging, folks, from a remote perspective. So why wouldn't you just dive in and try this, assessment and be able to embrace it and enjoy what you learn?
Mm-hmm.
So as Terry said, this is her profile. We're going to look at 12 different profiles based upon how you responded to this online survey. So the next one is really speaking to somebody who's direct. And we say this is the strong D in the DISC theory. When you speak in regards to somebody who's direct, they're going to be very concise, they're very opinionated, they're very goal-driven. So what we're giving you within this report, after we've given you your personal profile tips, we're going to dive into every one of these styles for you to be able to see 2 positive tips that you need to keep very mindful of when you've identified somebody's direct. And then the third one is going to say, this is what you don't want to do. Absolutely. Otherwise you're going to push down that individual and not keep them open. They will stop wanting to communicate with you. So I believe, Terry, I think you've got a little strong D in your profile. Yeah. So what about 2 check marks? Those, not at all. Total denial. So what
here's the thing. Because I am an entrepreneur, I'm all about time equals money. Okay. And it may not be physical money, but it's terms of time equals, money in terms of how much time did it take you and what value do you put on that? And we figured out, and I'm going to talk to that right now. We figured out, I think my poor VA almost fell off her chair when I started adding up how much time it was taking for us to write the blog, the people who are involved, everything, all the time involved, and paying the specific folks, her, me, the web guy, it was $250 per blog post.
Wow.
Time-wise.
Yes.
Time-wise. That's $1,000 a month, which is why I ask people to look at where they're spending their time. So yes, don't waste time with me. That's the first one. What's the second one? Provide written correspondence. Mm-hmm. I love having things in writing because I move quickly. That's what the D does. High speed. Boom, go. Short, sweet, to the point. And I like things in writing because I'm a visual. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to refer back to them. So don't waste their time with rhetorical or useless questions. It really depends on the scenario and where we're at. Because I'm a trainer first, mm-hmm. I always say that there is never a dumb question.
Right.
So I do give that a lot. I give that a little edge to it. I let that. I'll take the dumb question because you never know. Somebody else in the room may have the same dumb question. And it's not really dumb. It's just they have the same question.
Well, and I'm going to put a little tagline to this. I'm going to say, when you are high D, it's be bright, be brief, be gone.
Yes.
Do you like that?
Yes. Be bright, Be brief, be gone. Oh, I like that. Yes, absolutely.
So what we're going to do here, folks, we're setting the table. We're going to give you the highs and lows of each one of those quadrant styles. So we've just have gone through the high D, which we say is direct. And you can actually start to identify, even if it's the first time you've worked with somebody remotely. Maybe it's a coworker that you have worked with for a long time, and you identify some of these attributes that they have, that they are forceful, that they can be very strong-willed. You can start to say, oh, they're direct, and you can pull out this report and say, I need some tips on how to be very effective with this person.
Yeah, sure.
So let's go to the low end of this. And so when we talk about somebody who has a lower score in the D component, we say they're more low key. So meaning that they're a little bit more cooperative, a little bit more mild in the way that they approach things. So when you read these particular tips, they're going to be very valid in your ability to actually be very effective with somebody who has that low D. So Terry, this is the very opposite of you. What do you think of when somebody's reflective?
Well, here's what I know. Again, this is a learned behavior for me. I had to learn how to be reflective.
Okay.
I had to learn to take time out, carve. I'm going to say the word carve time out to get to this place. Okay. And it's taken a lot of energy to learn how to be there. So yeah, there are times I just sit there and I'm very reflective, because that's from the stress management perspective. But it took a long time. See that guy sitting there? It took a long time for me to just sit there and learn how to ponder and be quiet. And when, of course, I go to that low reflective end, that's situational. Yes. So that's why I want to make sure we get to this point of, this is not about personality. This is about, that this is the environment that you're in, the situation that you're in, because behavior changes according to the environment that you're in.
It absolutely does. And just know that, you heard her say it can be stressful when she's working with somebody that's the very opposite of her. Yep. And yes, just don't allow it. Just don't allow yourself to say, I have to tolerate this person for the next 30 minutes. No, I want you to flip that around. I want you to appreciate and really respect, because our opposites actually have strengths that we don't have. Yes. So when you look at these tips and the do's and don'ts, so to speak, of each one of these quadrant components, I want you to be very open-minded and think about, how can I turn lemons into lemonade, so to speak?
Absolutely.
Which is imperative. So that is the D style. Now we're going to get into an area that Terry can also identify. I would say she has a lot of I in her profile. Yes. So she's very outgoing.
Yeah, I am a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader in college. This is I call it the cheerleader profile. And again, the thing with the cheerleader profile, it's about learning how to take a step back and really listening, because even though you think you're listening, you're really not, because you're thinking about the next thing you're going to say.
That active listening I have to work on.
So it was because of that disc profile, by the way, and this piece right here, that I actually went to coaching school so that I could learn how to really listen and how to ask open-ended questions, because this opened the door to helping me understand my natural behavior style. And I always hated it growing up when my cousins and my family would say to me, you talk too much, you talk too much, you talk too much. And it was that constant criticism that really, it wears on you after a while. So you can't be yourself. So it was about learning how to embrace it and get in my own skin and learn how to be me. Okay, still be me, but be able to listen in a way that I could step into my voice, so to speak, because the eyes you can get diarrhea of the mouth with these guys. That's the best way to say it. Don't be too.
It's kind of interesting, because you don't like to waste time, but yet when you turn up your eye,
Yeah.
You can really command the
Yeah.
conversation. So
Yes.
you find that about yourself probably once in a while.
Oh, I do. I
Yeah.
do. And I'm aware of it. Now that last piece, don't be too factual or formal.
Mhm.
That specific piece, I was able to coach when somebody was delivering slides. This was just fairly recently, like 2 days ago. On a fluke, I ended up supporting them on a Zoom call because they didn't know how to work Zoom. And we did a practice session and ran through their slides. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. This is not going to work because they're very high tech people who had diarrhea of the words on the screen, that type of thing. And we talked about this piece here. They were so factual and so formal. And I know their audience. I knew their audience. And I said, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. They had a lot of high influential people in that room. And I thought, you've got to dial this back because, and we're going to be talking about the C in just a little bit, but it was a combination of the C and this piece right here with the I that there was, it was just too much on the screen. So this stuff, it's not just in how you communicate in person. It's also about how you communicate in PowerPoint presentations, how you communicate in email, and how you communicate when you're just interacting with anybody. It's about being aware of these specific things.
Absolutely. It's knowing your audience. It's knowing how can I keep them engaged to get my point across.
Yeah,
You run into people that just bore you, and all of a sudden you just shut down and you're not listening any longer.
that's right.
For Terry and myself, because she's a very high I, I'm the very opposite. I am very low. So I come across more reserved. I could be that person that would just be happy to present the facts and be very formal. So
Hmm.
what you need to understand is when you get your report and you find out who you are, Terry is very much of an extrovert. I'm very much of an introvert.
Right.
So talking and having that casual conversation doesn't come naturally to me like it does for Terry. So when I end up working with people that are the very opposite of my style, I have to remember I have to engage from a very warm, personal perspective in order to start that connection, because we all want to connect. We don't like disengagement. And really, in our workforces today, we have a high percentage of disengagement. But I hope that you see through using these tools that you can actually start to erase that. So I tend to want to stick to business. I tend to want to stick to the process at hand and to walk away. But I also have understood that I need to stretch. I need to be able to meet that other person's profile. So Terry, when you're that high I and I'm that low, we found that cadence with one another.
Yes, we have. And that was an energetic connection from the first day we met. We've always been very connected because there's a level of respect for the two, for each other.
Mhm.
And when I share something, I mean, you have absolutely no that you can say no to me. You can talk with me. So there's that connection there, which is a values thing. That our values play here. Now, folks, you should have seen Carol the first. This is what when I said to her, "Let's do this program and let's do it now," which was over during the week. The look on her face was like, "You have got to be kidding me!"
Whoa, not ready, not prepared.
And we did it anyway.
We did.
We did it anyway. So now this is the third time we're doing it, and third time's a charm,
Yeah.
because we had some technical difficulties, and you can see the rapport between us.
Mhm.
I knew I was pushing her, and I'm like, "Don't worry, I will take care of you." If you remember, I said that. "Don't worry, Carol, I will take care of you."
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. She is a woman of her word. But she also knows what's really nice is that she also I need that reinforcement. I need that safety net. So She is the one. I said, I don't want to be the only talking head. So when you see that, don't call on them to speak in heavily attended virtual meetings.
Yeah.
There'll be two talking heads here. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I said. I said, don't worry, we'll be chatting. It'll be a fireside chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And that warmed me up. She uses the words that really make me feel safe. And that's what makes this very, a very successful working relationship.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's talk about this strong S. And we say they're more predictable. So this is going to be somebody that's people oriented, but they're going to be someone that is not as outgoing. They want those questions asked of them to pull them into a conversation. Right. Allow them the time and space. So timing is everything. Yeah. If you're meeting with a strong S, don't call on them right up front. Don't put them on the spot. Give them time to listen to everybody else around the table sharing their opinions on a particular topic. When they've heard it and they've had time to process it, then they will feel comfortable in being able to contribute in the conversation during that meeting. So when you meet a high S, and I have quite a bit of S in my profile, so I'm not very expressive normally because this is a learned behavior, believe it or not. So when you think about this, Terry, and you've got somebody on the other side of the camera, so to speak, because I know you Zoom a lot, and they're not showing any body language, any facial expression, how difficult is it for you to start that conversation?
It can be difficult. But again, you see the very first line, it says, ask open-ended questions. That's something I do naturally that I had to train myself to do. Mm-hmm. Yes or no questions don't get anybody anywhere. What I know about the steady behavior style, it's important for me to make them feel safe because of all 4 behavior styles, they are the ones who really need the most support. And I know that. So because I know that, I know what to give them. And they're also the ultimate customer service professionals. They will give, and give. And classic S's, by the way, are in the healthcare profession. Look at the healthcare profession. Look at our teachers. A lot of our S's are in those industries. And it really reflects the giving and caring nature of those industries. So we have a lot of S folks there. So change can become very challenging. Allow them the time and the space to process. They need to think about things. They don't jump right away. Change is hard. My mom is a very, very high S. And she's also 97 years old. To get her to change, I mean, change has always been a very, very challenging thing. But I have seen her do huge leaps when she's needed, which is the classic S behavior style. When she is needed, she gets out of that, oh, I'm fearful of change mode, and she just zips right in because she has this natural need inside of her to take care of others.
Yeah, we're pretty good at handling crisis situations. I've always said when you're in the middle of a crisis, the one person you can depend on will pull through without a lot of anxiety and a calmness to bring into the situation. Is that high S?
Yes.
But on the flip side, this is more you. You're probably pretty low in this particular category. We say the low S is more dynamic because the more balls in the air, the better. They love that, energizes them. They are not like the high S where they want to start a project and finish a project. This particular profile is saying, no, I need to be very active. I'm going to be multitasking. That's where I'm really the best, let's say. So how do you relate to these do's and don'ts of the low S?
Provide time to think out loud. Absolutely. I have to talk things out. Mm-hmm. I have to talk things out. I need to write things out. I need my mind maps. It's got to come out of me. It's really important for me to do that and be open to discussing multiple topics in a single chat or call. Well, how many times have you and I together have talked about things and we're like, how did we get here?
You're very right. Yeah, I mean, I'm on one bunny trail and she had just went down several and I'm going, whoa, wait a minute, how did we get here? So absolutely.
We've had some very, very funny interactions like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good though. And I do know the one thing is I will not make a decision for you. So it's really allowing you to be expressive, to throw things out, and to throw in some pieces that could help you get to that decision. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to make a decision on your
Yeah.
behalf. That would really shut down our relationship.
And that's something to think about, by the way. Don't make decisions on their behalf. I'm
Mhm.
a high D, high I by nature. I'm a high D, high I, and then I'm also a high conscientious. And I had to learn. I'm going to go back to that learning piece.
Mhm.
I had to learn, and I was taught this from my coaching school and all the other holistic, because I'm also a holistic practitioner, all the holistic modalities that I work with.
Mhm.
I had to learn not to make decisions for other people.
Right.
I had to learn to shift into neutral
Mhm.
and learn how to allow people to make their own mistakes because the high D's love to fix everything.
Right.
And it's about taking a step back and allowing people to sink or swim. It's about allowing them to make their own mistakes and not fixing things. So that behavior right there, don't make decisions on their behalf. I had to learn not to do that. And it has worked for my children, for my clients, my coaching clients, for my students. I don't make decisions for people in that realm. Every once in a while, I'll slip, and I see something that needs to be done, and I'll go ahead and I will do that. But again, that is a learned behavior for me, and I've gotten really, really good at just stepping into neutral. And I had to do that to manage my stress levels, by the way, because when you don't make decisions for other people, what you're doing is you're putting your boundaries up.
Mhm.
And that's a values thing. It's about boundaries. So
Well,
when you go ahead.
and I want to just point out that your comment about you don't want to make decisions for others. Part of that is because if you make decisions for others, they won't have the same level of buy-in.
Right.
When it's their decision, they'll be in it 100%. But
It's right.
yeah,
And whether it's in sales or whether
absolutely.
it's in leadership or maybe it's something they have to learn. And if you jump in, you're taking the learning process away from them.
So that in and of itself is all around the high S and the low S. Let's move into the last behavioral component of DISC. Let's talk about this compliant, this very high C. And I can relate to this one. This one really fits my profile. I am somebody who's very conservative. I'm not a risk taker. I'm cautious when there is change. I will look at every angle, make sure that it's not going to have a negative impact on what it is I'm trying to accomplish. So it can also be my worst because I am very much, I want things accurate, I want them precise. And so I struggle with paralysis through analysis. So I'm a little bit too analytical at times in order to let things go. Sometimes I don't think I have all of the information. So that strong compliant, yeah, can I bend the rules? Yes, but within a narrow window, probably. Not like yourself, though. You're not the conservative. You're that uninhibited, and there we go. You're the pioneering one.
Yeah. But you know what? My poor JVs, not JVs, my VAs.
Mhm.
You should see my project management program. I get into the details like there's no tomorrow because on my disc profile, my regular disc profile, it is DI and my S goes into the toilet and then my C comes up. And so I do get to that point where with specific systems, I can get into the weeds of details with that with the C piece. So I think yes, I'm pioneering, but I think I'm in the middle, in between the high C. I'm right smack in that middle bracket with the C, if I'm not mistaken, in my profile.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of blend, you can come up with great ideas and how things can be done better.
Hmm.
Done better, you want them
Yeah.
done precisely. You won't want to go back and make that decision again. So I think you would be very careful in making sure that you have all the facts, that you have everything in order to not have to go, ooh, bad decision. We got to go back and
Right. Right. But again, the thing is, and this is what I want to make clear to folks, because of my training
Mhm.
of how I was trained, if I didn't have that training, every single thing that is here would be spot on. And that's really the difference. It's I've trained myself to step back on a lot of the things that is being shown, because I work on myself every single day, and that's a choice.
It is a choice. And I think that's what we're giving to your folks is saying, take a moment, take 5 to 10 minutes to take this OnLearn survey to really better understand who you are. And folks, there's no right or wrong response. There's no good or bad profile.
Exactly.
It's just knowing who you are and then what you can do with it. What I loved in the very beginning for me is I understood I was this very introverted, not necessarily a conversationalist, uncomfortable in large groups. I'm great one-on-one. But I knew as my career evolved, that wasn't going to be a positive for me. That was actually going to hold me back from becoming who I could potentially be if I just made some effort into stretching and to growing and learning how to really be more impactful in different ways outside of my comfort zone. So being that very reserved individual, coming across pretty much non-animated, people don't pay attention to that. Think about most of our comedians. They are not reserved. I can guarantee you that. But what was fun for Terry and myself is that once we identified on look at this, she's that very pioneering, I'm that very reserved, going, whoa, 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 back up, slow down,
Oh,
nothing.
that's so funny.
Yeah. So talk a little bit to this, Terry.
Well, knowing who you are, it has always been important for me, and I picked that up the very first time that we met years ago. It was important for me that I to be clear. It
Mhm.
was important for me to take a step back. It was important for me to keep my energy in check because yes, I can be I have big energy. I do. I have big energy. And you don't want to push people away, you want to enroll people.
Yeah. You want
And
to
and I think that's what helped us both. But here's the other thing. You were so engaging. That was the other part. And it was a fluke because I had a different uh, person who I was supposed to be directed to. So it was actually a mistake that you and I connected when I called that day. But we had so much fun.
yes.
We were, I brought my stuff down and you brought your stuff up. So we were at a on an even level where we were matching one another.
Mhm.
And that was because we happened to know the disc language of communication.
Right. And I hope that we're demonstrating that, what Terry just said is that very first time she knew she kind of had to, you know, draw in or dial down
Yeah, darn, yeah.
all that energy because that would put me off. I get a little overwhelmed when I work with people that are very strong, very expressive. I'll almost take that as being too superficial or over the top, and so I just don't see that as being credible. So she was very wise in being able to pick that up. So for us, we look at these tips of the do's and don'ts, and we actually just kind of naturally fell into these. And that's why we're able to work very well together.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Absolutely.
so Terry, I'm just going to kind of wrap this up a little bit. This just kind of reiterates what our objective was for having this podcast today. We really want you to embrace the uniqueness of your behavioral style, understand what those tendencies are based upon the profile that you will find once you take this online survey. But be aware, utilize those strengths, and understand that we all have weaknesses, and that's okay. But learn to manage to them. Make them your lemonade. It doesn't have to always, I can just be who I want to be. I shouldn't have to adapt. Well, some of us, have run into people like that. You can be a curmudgeon if you'd like to be, if that's, how you want to see the world and you want everybody to perceive you as, I guess that's okay. But really take these tips and visualize when you're meeting with the other people across the camera or through the phone. Use this as a constant reminder of how you can be the most effective, because our communication styles, this is the way that we connect with people. It's not just body language, even though that's part of it, but it's really listening. It's really understanding and paying attention to the body language. So use these tips also to really be productive. Utilize your time well. When you're using these tips and on a day-to-day basis, I always keep all of my tips in front of me. So when I'm talking to somebody, I'm going, oh yeah, right. I need to just smile a little bit more. I need to be a little bit more expressive. Say good morning. How was your weekend, Terry? What have you got planned? So just as a reminder, that's what I love about these assessments, is because I take all the goodness from it and really try and focus on it. So share the assessment link once you get the link that Terry's going to provide for you. Let others who you live with take the assessment, give it to your extended family, give it to your friends, give it to coworkers, because it's free. It's absolutely free. All it takes is approximately 10 to 15 minutes to complete the survey and look at the richness that you get.
Absolutely. And down below at the bottom of your screen, you can see where to get this, buildrapport.awakenthepossibilities.com. And this is my way and Carol's way of giving back to all of you. So many of us are giving back in different ways. This is the way I most naturally can give back, is by teaching and sharing and helping and doing what I can to help you reduce your stress levels. I'm a business and resilience accelerator. That's what I do. And to be able to offer this free profile, that's why Carol and I were doing this together today, to help you be the best that you can be and help ease the stress that you may be having in working from home. So Carol, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this with me, because it is so much fun. We're going to be doing more of these in helping you to communicate better, and we're calling it the Build Rapport series. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for future announcements on when we're going to be doing the next one. And we're going to be unpacking each of the behavior styles so that you can understand them a little bit better. So I'm Terry Wildemann with Intuitive Leadership. And Carol, you are?
Carol Mettebrink with TTI Success Insights.
We look forward to seeing you next time, and have your most amazing day ever to your success.
Bye.